So, guys, fellow Bruce Lee fans, because I am a definite Bruce Lee fan, have been one since my teenage years, even before probably, but certainly in my teens and in high school, especially, I became a die-hard, hardcore Bruce Lee fan. So, these are my reasons. You could differ, of course, in why you think he's the best or great. But why Bruce Lee will always be the best for me is here are the reasons. Let's go. Student and teacher. So now, Bruce Lee wasn't only a martial arts student under Hip Man in Wing Chun Kung Fu, but Bruce also became a teacher. He ran his own kung fu school, or say dojo, Japanese dojo they call it, but his kung fu school where he taught the everyday man and woman, anybody, but also big name celebrities such as Steve McQueen, James Coburn, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Chuck Norris, the list goes on, right? So Bruce emphasized a personal journey in martial arts, and this is, I think, what makes it very special. He ultimately created Jeet Kune Do, his sort of expression of the martial arts, his very personal expression in style. But he also encouraged and always encouraged students to absorb what is useful and reject what is useless and add what is specifically your own. So if something doesn't work for you, don't do it. If you can't do, say, high kicks, if you can't kick that high, don't do it. You want to kick, say, below the waist or so. And so absorb what is useful. But most of all for Bruce, and this is again something that still impresses me about him, he continued to be a student. He would learn from anyone he thought he could advance, that, the training, this new training could advance his fight expertise. Now, most notably that comes to mind is Dan Inosanto and Chuck Norris. They were two top martial artists who Bruce became friends with and who he taught, and these men also taught Bruce. So, sort of lifelong student and teacher, back and forth. He was always a student, but then also a teacher. Lessons.
Boards don't hit back.
Now, again, this always impressed me as a kid watching Bruce Lee movies, and now as an adult, I appreciate it so much more, of course, the lessons. And these are the practical lessons that you'll find in many Bruce Lee movies. They're conveyed in many of his unforgettable moments in film. Now, one of the best and still most famous is from Enter the Dragon when he's fighting with Ohara. Ohara. I love how Han calls him that. So to show off Ohara, or maybe even to scare Bruce, Ohara breaks a board, with his hand quick. And Bruce smirks and says, "Boards don't hit back." I just always love that as a kid. And today it's a very simple but a wonderful way to emphasize that you may train with, say, boards, punching bags, wooden dummies. You may break all the boards you want, but you must fight and physically spar with a real live human being who can not only hit back, but anticipate your reactions, your techniques and your strategy against you. A living opponent, not a robo opponent, or wooden dummies are great and certain objects, but you got to spar and throw down with a human. So his primary goal, of course, in films was to entertain us, to get us going and motivate. But he often used these action sequences to demonstrate the core of his martial arts and his philosophy. So it makes his movies much more than just simple fight films. They offer glimpses, and I say even important lessons, into the unique approach to Bruce's combat and self defense. And finally, last but not least, and I really believe this is probably, for me anyway, the most important reason why he'll be the best. It's the emotions. Okay, the feelings, the feels, the rage, the anger, the sadness. Okay, now look, every martial arts movie, right, has fighting, rageful, howls of anger, cries of sadness. Martial arts movies are very emotional, sure, but Bruce completely commands the screen with his emotional presence, his authenticity, and you just can't look away with that sheer power, that emotional core and foundation, which makes every scene and movie of Bruce's more than simply a fun fight flick. I love all martial arts movies, or many of them. But if there's not that emotional component, and Bruce had it, one of the things he would say is, be a real human being, be an authentic human being, a real person. And couldn't have said it better and done it better in his films. So, what do you think? Those are my reasons. There's many reasons more I love Bruce Lee, but those are the ones that keep coming, back for more. It keeps me coming back for more, to keep watching his films and reading articles and books and documentaries. Bruce Lee, he'll always be the best. He'll always be the best. And these were my reasons. What do you think? Give us feedback. Hope you're enjoying. Hope you're subscribing. See you soon.